Yemen's ceasefire, a beacon of hope in a prolonged and devastating conflict, is teetering on the brink of collapse, raising questions about the underlying reasons for its fragility. The conflict in Yemen, which began in 2014, has been characterized by a complex web of local, regional, and international dynamics, with the Houthi rebel movement at its center, fighting against the Yemeni government forces, backed by a Saudi-led coalition. The ceasefire, brokered with the intention of paving the way for peace, has struggled to maintain its hold due to a multitude of factors that highlight the deep-seated challenges in Yemen's conflict. One of the primary reasons for the ceasefire's failure is the lack of trust between the warring parties. Years of conflict have eroded confidence, and each side views the other with deep suspicion. This mistrust is compounded by the history of failed negotiations and violated agreements, leading to a scenario where both sides are quick to accuse the other of breaching the ceasefire, often responding with retaliatory measures. The absence of a robust and trusted mechanism to monitor and enforce the ceasefire exacerbates this situation, allowing minor incidents to escalate quickly into major confrontations. The involvement of external powers has also played a significant role in the ceasefire's instability. Regional players, notably Saudi Arabia and Iran, are deeply entrenched in Yemen's conflict, each supporting opposing sides. Saudi Arabia's backing of the Yemeni government and Iran's support for the Houthi rebels have transformed the Yemeni conflict into a proxy battleground for wider regional rivalries. These external influences fuel the conflict, providing military, financial, and political support that emboldens each side to pursue military victories over diplomatic solutions. Yemen's humanitarian crisis, described by the United Nations as one of the worst in the world, further complicates the ceasefire. The dire situation, characterized by widespread famine, disease, and displacement, creates an environment of desperation and urgency. Humanitarian issues are often leveraged by both sides for political gains, with access to aid and relief being used as bargaining chips, undermining efforts for a sustainable ceasefire and peaceful resolution. The complex and fragmented nature of Yemen's political and tribal landscape presents another challenge to the ceasefire. In addition to the main conflict between the Houthis and the Yemeni government, there are numerous other armed groups with their own agendas and grievances. These groups often operate independently and can instigate violence that jeopardizes the ceasefire, even if the primary parties remain committed to it. The lack of a unified command structure among the anti-Houthi forces further complicates the situation, making it difficult to ensure comprehensive compliance with the ceasefire. The economic dimensions of the conflict also contribute to the ceasefire's fragility. Control over resources, including key ports, oil reserves, and revenue-generating areas, is a critical aspect of the conflict. Both sides have economic incentives to control these assets, leading to continued skirmishes and undermining the ceasefire. The dire economic conditions in Yemen, exacerbated by the conflict, make the struggle for resources even more acute. The ideological and religious aspects of the conflict, particularly the sectarian narrative often portrayed, add another layer of complexity. The Houthi movement, which adheres to the Zaidi branch of Shia Islam, is often framed by its adversaries as a proxy for Shia Iran, while the Yemeni government is predominantly Sunni and backed by Sunni-majority Saudi Arabia. This sectarian framing oversimplifies the conflict, but contributes to its intractability, as it turns local grievances into broader ideological and religious battles. Geopolitical shifts and changing priorities of international actors also impact the viability of the ceasefire. The international community's focus on Yemen has been inconsistent, often overshadowed by other global crises. Changes in leadership and policy in key countries, such as the United States, can lead to shifts in foreign policy towards Yemen, affecting the dynamics of the conflict and the support or pressure exerted on the warring parties. The role of international and regional organizations in mediating the conflict and supporting the ceasefire has been crucial but also limited. While the United Nations and other bodies have played a role in brokering and advocating for the ceasefire, their influence is often constrained by the interests and actions of member states, particularly those directly involved in the conflict. This limits their ability to enforce the ceasefire and hold violators accountable. The impact of the conflict on the Yemeni population has been catastrophic, and this human toll adds to the urgency of maintaining the ceasefire. However, the deep psychological and social scars of the conflict make reconciliation and peace-building efforts challenging. The population's suffering often fuels further resentment and desire for retribution, creating a cycle of violence that is difficult to break. The lack of a clear and inclusive political roadmap for Yemen's future is a significant barrier to the ceasefire's success. Without a vision for a post-conflict Yemen that addresses the underlying political, social, and economic grievances, the ceasefire remains a temporary measure rather than a step towards lasting peace. The absence of such a roadmap makes it difficult for the warring parties to see the benefits of adhering to the ceasefire, as there is no clear path to achieving their broader objectives. In conclusion, the failure of Yemen's ceasefire is the result of a combination of deep-seated mistrust, external interference, humanitarian catastrophes, economic struggles, and political fragmentation. The path to a lasting ceasefire and peace in Yemen requires addressing these underlying challenges, building trust among the warring parties, and ensuring the involvement and support of the international community. It also necessitates a comprehensive political solution that includes all stakeholders and addresses the root causes of the conflict. Until these issues are resolved, ceasefires in Yemen will likely remain fragile and temporary, prolonging the suffering of its people and the instability in the region. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Yemen's complex conflict. Please like and subscribe for more interesting videos.